June 12th, 2025. Another crazy week in this post republic of ours. It's hard to keep track sometimes here with my friends Tyler and Silas. And Tyler, you got the rundown of news.
Oh yeah. Been kind of a busy week. I mean, we got riots in LA over the ICE raids. Trump deploys the Marines, but Trump also implies that he might dial back the deportations. Um, Alex Padilla forcibly removed from Kristi Noem's presser. Data Republican exposes funding for the riots. Elon issues half-assed apology to Trump. RFK Jr. fires all 17 members of ACIP, paving the way for revamping the vaccine schedule. Apparently, the U.S. has soldier astronauts on the moon. Not sure if you guys heard that one. Fake news circulates about Thomas Massey voting no on the Doge cuts. He claims that the vote did not happen yet and that he will vote yes. And then also more of a controversial topic is the reports claim Israel is considering military strikes on Iran amidst Trump's nuclear negotiations. So yeah, we got some foreign policy stuff, we got some domestic stuff, we got Summer of Love, the sequel, and then everything we talked about last week pretty much doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, we spent the entire 2.5 hours talking about a feud that is literally like feels like it happened a month ago now.
Oh, but what about that half-assed apology? I didn't hear the words "I'm sorry."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's well. A lot of people were talking about how quickly both Elon and the libertarian, Rand Paul and Massey, how their grandstanding over the big beautiful bill was like, you got egg on your face, guys. Like, there's a reason we need more funding for ICE agents and border security, but um, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because that was probably. I'm curious what the reasoning was for Elon doing that. Was it because like, yeah, I guess I can't steer this news cycle to my benefit. I'm just gonna kind of apologize now. Maybe it was just a drug induced stupor. We don't know. We could always consider that, or not stupor, but just like a rash decision on his part in
A
some way. But
drug-induced melty
yeah,
is what I'm calling it, or just a full-on pseudo psyop. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, what we talked about, it's
Hmm.
like there's no way that was real. I didn't think it was real,
I didn't
and
either.
yeah. But I mean, last week we talked a lot about the big beautiful bill and the spending and all of that too, and like Massey it just keeps. I don't know what his deal is. Seems like something's off with him, and his wife passed away, I think last year, kind of mysteriously. So and that's enough to make somebody kind of go a little cuckoo. But I guess the White House was going to send the rescissions package, which was going to be about 9.4 billion, and they I guess there was some sort of vote on a CR or something like that, and Massey did vote no on something, which made everybody, especially the MAGA people, were jumping on Massey, and I've been jumping on Massey myself, but it's like, hey, you guys, you got this one wrong. They haven't had that vote yet, and he's going to vote yes on it. So just hold your horses. Fake news does circulate on the right as well, is kind of what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the spending in terms of it being a focal point. We talked a lot about this last show, but it is kind of like the climate change of. It's definitely like the climate change apocalypse of libertarians, and I was all bought in like 10, 15 years ago, and instead I should have just bought a house then because shit wasn't gonna crash, and it just kept going up. But
Hmm.
like the most pressing issue, yeah, the federal government spends money. We talked about this. The Federal Reserve, all the entire system, yeah, it's corrupt. But what's a more pressing need? Like people who have come over the border illegally. A lot of them we have no idea who they are. I mean, the vast majority of them. And you see people waving flags in your streets and um, basically trying to. I mean, I have some videos of guys talking about why they're there, and it's clear they don't have an allegiance. They don't have an allegiance to the United States. They just want to be here.
Yeah.
They just want to, and a lot of the narrative is also about we want to reoccupy. This is stolen land, even though the U.S. literally paid Mexico for it. So
Mm.
um,
I thought it was conquered land. I don't think that did. I don't think they bought it, did they? I thought they got it in the Mexican War.
well,
You know what I'm talking about?
regardless, they did pay Mexico. Maybe it was a part of like, all right, we'll
Oh,
just
okay.
pay. I think it was like $15 million or something.
Yeah, but they're over here waving foreign flags,
Yeah,
which
so
is an insurrection. It's kind of the talking point on the right.
yeah, and then you have people who are saying, "Oh, we got to hand out American flags. This looks bad, guys." I don't know if you saw that. Like Reddit's like, "Let's buy American flags." The people are saying this. Yeah, it looks like an actual foreign invasion, dude. It's not a good. It's not a good look.
Well, I'm just wondering. I think the libs and the Dems, they're just so used to not having political consequences for their craziness, and it seems like this one's actually backfiring on them. And I mean, I was pretty vocal about it with you guys that I didn't think we were going to see any mass deportation. I think I even made a bet. I was like, we're not going to see any mass deportations. We're going to see like some deportations of violent criminals, and that's going to be pretty much it. But I was wrong, and I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. And because the reason why I didn't think we were going to see mass deportations, and I kind of didn't want to see them, is because I thought that we were going to have just 24/7 propaganda of little abuelitas being separated from their grandkids and being put in camps and stuff like that. And that's going to be horrible for us in the midterms. It's going to be horrible for the Republican Party politically. But I did not see this ending up being a positive politically for MAGA.
Yeah, and oh, go ahead, Silas.
Uh, I was just gonna say it. Yeah, it does seem like polls ratings or whatever are going up with immigrants themselves. Like they favor his actions more and more since 2016. I think there's a CNN like broadcast of it even
Yeah, it went up
showing.
40 points.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So it shows, I guess, that common sense law enforcement and where like people are seeing their streets being crowded and everything just being saturated with a different culture, and they want that fixed first and foremost, it seems.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, legal immigrants are the most have the most like I don't know. I would say, well, American citizens definitely do, but also like on a personal level, if you've been waiting, you went through the process, you paid the money, you did everything to get that citizenship card, and then just a bunch of people are like, I'm just going to walk over and I'm also going to get welfare and not work. Not all of them, but they're getting it as a result of not having authorization to work. Like you're going to be pissed off that there's a bunch of people have come into the country and skipped the line while you followed the rules. So a lot of immigrants, like recent immigrants, are very opposed to like open borders for that reason because it's like, why did I even do that if you're just going to give amnesty to these people or whatever?
Well, and if we take in so many, they're coming here for the American dream. They're coming here for economic purposes. They want what, they want the opportunity, they want to make a bunch of money and then, send it back to their families in Honduras or wherever. But the problem is that there's kind of like a self-referential issue that if we keep bringing in so many immigrants, then there's not going to be that American dream anymore. You can only take so many. But I mean, I'm preaching to the choir over here. I was actually going to start. I'm a little bit. I'm somewhat against the mass deportations. There's something about it that is funky. It's I can see how the left calls it fascism. I really can. I mean, think about, people in military fatigues going door to door. Let me see your papers. That does feel, I mean, fascistic. But I mean, maybe the Nazis just ruined that, and maybe I'm just being a toxically empathetic lib.
Well,
There has to be like a physical process of finding the people and taking them out. So like there's probably another way to do it perhaps, but going literally door to door is a proven method.
Mm,
yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think in the West, we've gotten so accustomed to a lack of use of force by the state in a way that's, obviously rational use of force. To where, I mean, you have cities that are not prosecuting low level theft. You have cities not prosecuting people driving around with expired plates or not even, any documentation whatsoever. It's that whole. I mean, we basically had anarcho tyranny normalize on a mass scale, and so now when there's a correction that needs to happen, unfortunately, because so many people have been let in, it makes it um, that much more challenging. And then also, like, look at this humanitarian crisis, but it was already unfolding for the last, God, I mean, it's several decades at this point, like going back 40 years,
mm.
So I think to a lot of people, I mean, you see that with cops too, like, oh my God, that cop, that they're pushing that man down, and it's mean. You get that kind of mindset
Hmm.
that's easy to fall prey to in terms of like, well, we have to be compassionate. Like this is, um, it's not going to be easy for those people. But at the same time, much like any other issue, if you don't draw a line and you say we are going to enforce it, then that line will be crossed. And another example of that, to be honest, when it comes to compassion, is the whole trans issue. Like, I want to be compassionate. Like, it's okay if you cut off your genitals, Billy, or sorry, Sandy. Um, that's where you get to. So with the border, it's kind of the same thing where, unfortunately, um, force has to be used to make it happen. And I also, you know, I think focusing on the violent criminals first is wise, and people involved in gangs and anything like that.
Hmm.
But eventually, like, you have to move down because the government is literally offering plane tickets again and $1,000 if you want to fly.
Mm.
You're not
Hmm.
you're not authorized to be here. This is the new policy, and the culture is behind it.
Hmm.
It much more than it used to be. I will say that. If this was 2016, yeah, you're not going to do mass deportations, but I think it's necessary. I mean, um, the big controversy that broke before we got on was about Trump offering potential amnesty somehow. Yes, there you go, to hotel and farm workers.
Yeah.
Um, the farm workers, I'm more sympathetic to that than anything else, and I
Because
know
who's
it's
gonna pick our
I know
crops,
it's the
Adrian?
it's the classic line that you hear from everybody, but realistically, and this is an unfortunate reality, is like ideally yes, like Americans, young Americans, high school students, college students can fill those jobs, pick the fruit, pick the crops, but we have a system that probably has at least hundreds of thousands of undocumented illegal immigrants
Hmm.
working these jobs. So there would probably be a pretty big disruption to the food supply, and that is the one argument I think against mass deportations. But it's a very short-term economic argument, and I think similar to the budget issue, the issue of mass deportations it's more it's the cultural issue that matters just as much, because if you have people who are not loyal to your country, don't share your values, um, don't there might be a good percentage of people who are illegal who share our values, but
Hmm.
at the same time it's like how do you cut the wheat from the chaff, so to speak? You know,
Mm.
it's you kind of have to just you have to enforce the law, otherwise it's never going to end.
I'm just happy to have a sealed border. I mean, I just manage my expectations. I'm not expecting a lot. I just want a better economy and a sealed border. That's all I want. You know, I have low expectations, so I'm not going to be disappointed. You know, a lot of people in MAGA are just very disappointed because of the lack of justice and you know stuff like that. So I'm I mean, I hate to say I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not okay with it, but I'll take what I can get, if you know what I mean. So, but I was gonna say I was in an X space yesterday, and our friend Blondie, who's out there, shout out Blondie, she made a point that you know a lot of the illegal immigrants kind of they do have some conservative values. You know, they don't abort their kids. They go to church. They're very family oriented. They do have loyalty to their nation and to their family and stuff like that. But I think the problem is, and that kind of goes back to the old Reaganism of he said uh, illegal immigrants or Mexican illegals are conservatives. They just don't know it yet, or they're Republicans, but they just don't know it yet. And I think there was some truth to that. But we're not just dealing with Mexicans at this point. It's people from Honduras, Brazil, people from Nigeria. I mean, actual full-on terrorists from the Middle East that were letting over. Just so you know, as much as I'm actually kind of fond of our Mexican neighbors personally because of those values alignments. But at the same time, like it's there's only so many you can take, and also you know, it's not just Mexicans anymore. So maybe I'm a big old lib. Fine, whatever. I'll
I,
take it.
I
I'm
think,
still recovering, okay, guys?
You need to detox more,
yeah,
man.
Jesus. I
Get
think
this guy out of here.
part of the plan is to do this big scare in the major cities, and a lot of people that are wanting to return and keep working, they'll do the self deportation, and
Come back.
you're favored to come back
Hmm.
faster if you do that. So
Hmm.
perhaps the responsible ones will realize that's the path to actually securing their spot in America, and then the others will just self deport and stay out and figure out a new path.
I'm in favor of putting a pause on all migration for like 5 years. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
5 years from now, we'll reassess. But
Hmm.
you know, an argument because it's multifaceted. There's going to be hardship when it comes to the food and some construction services and like what it's you can't deny obviously that there's a lot of industries that are lacking for workers, and that's been kind of the low level, or I should say higher level motivation for bringing in all these people is you have companies that need workers.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you know, sure, our products can be cheaper, but housing goes way up.
Hmm.
Inflation goes way up because you're spending. I mean, how much are we spending as the entire nation every year on illegal immigration,
Hmm.
illegal immigrants? It's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close to $1 trillion a year.
But Massey has informed me that it's going to cost us way too much money to get rid of these people.
Yeah, that's retarded. Uh,
um, well, and also crime goes up. Unfortunately, it just is what it is.
what?
Crime
What do
goes
you
up,
mean? I
and
heard that they all commit less crime than Americans. I heard this.
well, I'm in favor of stopping pretty much all immigration. You know, one of the before before I was really kind of like when I was starting to get politically involved, I was looking at the border because Trump was rightly bringing it up, and Trump was somewhat of a genius to bring this up as the the main campaign issue in 2016 because it was kind of a bipartisan issue, right? So the Republicans, the Republican Party of yesteryear, is just as responsible for a lot of the immigration policies as the Democrats. The Republicans who had their big corporate donors, they got their cheap workforce. They got their cheap wages, and then the Democrats got their potential voters or their future voters. And so it was kind of just a bipartisan uniparty issue. And then Trump came along and really kind of, shined a light on that. So, I mean, oh, well, I forgot what I was going to say. I had another point, but
Well, I did want to bring up this clip of Joe Biden talking about sanctuary city policies and what can happen for, you know.
oh, I miss Uncle Joe.
Yeah, well, here he is.
Would you allow these cities to ignore the federal law regarding the reporting of illegal immigrants and, in fact, provide sanctuary to these immigrants?
The reason the cities ignore the federal law is the fact that there is no funding at the federal level to provide for the kind of enforcement at the federal level you need. Pick up the New York Times today. There's a city not far across the river from my state that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing
So,
law.
Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Okay.
Whoa!
Based. What happened to that guy?
Yeah, did you notice that
They killed him.
his earlobes don't connect in that video? His earlobes. If
That
you
is
look at
not. It's not the same guy.
not the same guy.
Nope.
Yeah.
Spiritually, metaphysically, physically, not the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to the racial jungle guy? Remember that guy?
That guy was based too.
Yeah, well, that was normal, you know.
Yeah.
Obama deported a lot of people. Granted, those numbers are skewed because deportation was considered turned around at the border back then.
Yeah.
I
They
don't know if
changed the
still count that,
definition.
but much like vaccine, and they changed the definition of that. But yeah,
What I was going to say, I remembered my point, was that I just wanted to see a closed border just to know that we can. Because if we can't close that border through political action, then, I mean, do we even really have a country? Do we really even own our government? So, but seeing a 99.9% sealed border, and the Democrats, during the last 4 years were saying, oh, we need to pass a new law. No, you just need to enforce the current laws. And they were like, it's impossible to close the border. Like, everybody's saying it's impossible to close the border. All you needed was Trump to get in there and make the right noises and, fund the border patrol and just close it down. So I actually didn't think that we were going to see an actual closed border, and I just want to take a victory lap on that. And I understand that MAGA wants to push right and normalize and push right and normalize and keep going. We can always get more. I get that. But I just want to, on a personal level, I'm just kind of just happy at the moment because I'm getting more than what I ever thought that I would have gotten. So I'm being a thankful, I'm practicing gratitude.
Yeah, and Trump's, I guess, showing that he will send reinforcements to those operations. That's part of this play, I think, is to show that it's not just the National Guard or ICE that he'll command. He'll bring in Marines. He'll, make sure the job gets done, regardless of what the reverse side is doing, because it seems like there is an operation on the other side that's bringing materials in and people and paying people to kind of fluff up the protests.
so I do think the recent kind of, I don't know if it's a flip-flop per se, but walking back some of the mass deportations with the farm and hotel workers.
It was just a post. Okay,
Now-
it was just a truth post. He's just testing the waters. Okay.
Well, so that may be the case. We don't know the outcome. We don't know what the specific is. I don't think it's citizenship. It's probably like temporary work visa. Like that's reasonable. But the optics of doing it in the midst of the protest, I don't really understand, because it's almost encouraging. Like, well, did he just give them some concession because of the rioting? You know, like, you don't want to encourage your opponent to just, well, maybe we need to riot more.
That is a weird post.
Yeah, so there's that part of it. On the strategic side, if you're talking about taking the sting out of the mass deportation policy, the calculus could be that Trump and the administration are just thinking like, well, if that whole like, who's going to pick the fruit? Well, to be fair, he did just do this, right? And because that's kind of like the what about polio with vaccines? It's like, who's going to pick the fruit?
Yeah.
And that is taken off the table in terms of the implications. Like, well, if you look at the number of immigrants and the number of people who pick fruit, it's not that high. I'd actually like to ask Grok.
Yeah, I'll do
What
it.
are what is the percentage of illegal immigrants who are farm workers? Because it's probably less than 5%.
Well, how many millions of illegals do we have?
Well,
We don't
yeah,
even
I
know.
know. Yeah, that's true. 40 million, 50,
Farm
I don't know.
workers or agricultural.
Sure, yeah, either way. Sure, it'll get it.
Estimates on the percentage of farm workers in California who are undocumented immigrants. Oh, Grok. They're illegal invaders, okay, Grok? 75%. Some sources include La Cooperativa Campesina de California. Oh, God. Estimate that approximately 75% of California's farm workers are undocumented. No, I'm saying like total, Grok. Okay.
Yeah, maybe phrase it different. Like, of people who are undocumented,
Yeah, I got to speak its language, huh?
who are in the United States, what percentage of those are farm workers? What's this undocumented census we got here?
Well, hopefully it answers the questions, right? Estimates on the percentage of undocumented immigrants in the U.S. who work as farm workers vary due to differences in data sources, of course. 4% is what it's saying.
That's what I said, less than 5. I got it.
You got one.
Woo!
Adrian got a dub.
So that's 4%. So the other 96%, they can go. Hotel workers, maybe another 5%. Okay, so we got 90%.
90% that are just here dealing drugs, human trafficking, living off of welfare. I don't know. They're putting them up in hotels. I mean, who knows? We really don't even know how many illegals are in this country. The fact that we don't know that number is pretty...
Yeah, because they weren't just coming through the borders; they were getting plane flights in, and there's all kinds of arrangements to flood the country. So,
Big country to hide them too. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't notice it as much, but
yeah.
So the Biden administration was essentially a human trafficking operation.
yeah, that's not hyperbolic at all. That's actually accurate. Well, shoot, what was I gonna say about? Oh, well, we do know. We don't know how many people came in, but there was that document that was released from ICE that said, "Oh yeah, we allowed in over 13,000 convicted murderers into the country. That we could actually, we had the documentation that they were murderers, and they got let in. It's not like, oh, we estimate that this many murderers came in. Like,
Yeah.
imagine considering yourself a nation and 13,000 murderers just show up to the border through a time frame, and you're just like, well, you got no other place to go, I guess. How insane is that? That's like the definition of why you have boundaries is to keep out bad people.
I mean, if the federal government has one job, I mean, if they have one job, that's it, to protect the border, right? But hey, like I said, I'm not gonna be the guy complaining. I'm happy to have that sealed border. So I mean, let's push right and normalize for sure. But let's also win the midterms, and let's also make sure that we win the White House again in 28. Because if we don't, they are going to undo all of Trump's executive orders on day one. And I mean, I don't have any faith in Congress to codify any of his EOs. So, which puts us in a messed up situation because that's kind of what happened when Biden got in. They undid all of his EOs, and the country went to shit because relying on EOs is not good policy. It's not good politics. We need more lasting change, and that's why I want that big beautiful bill to pass, even if it does spend some money. I want I want funding, lasting funding for ICE, Border Patrol, and Border Security. I want, yeah, I want that lasting change, even if it costs $4 trillion. And I was doing the math, and yeah, there has been an increase in spending, just a slowly, steadily increase in spending, and the libertarians and the Dems will attack Trump and say, "Oh, look at how much money he spent," but really, he didn't spend that much more money if you take away the COVID spending. So the COVID spending was a lot, and that's so when you look at a graph and you have this huge spike in 2020, and it's like, well, yeah, because that was a bipartisan, a pandemic, and it was a bipartisan effort to spend a bunch of money. So it's kind of annoying when they try to blame Trump, like, oh, look how much money he spends. It's like, okay, well, we had like kind of a once in a lifetime pandemic. I'm not saying I'm happy about the spending of COVID, but I'm saying you can't pin that all on Trump. And so this bill, I mean, they're kind of estimating it's going to be 4 point whatever trillion. I mean, that's kind of normal in the grand scheme of things. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I want that lasting change. I don't want to rely on EOs because they're just going to, with a swipe of a pen on day one, they're going to be gone. So, I want to win the White House in 28. And even if, sorry guys, but if mass deportations is going to hurt us politically in the long run, I'd rather win the next elections. Um, I mean, just kind of is what it is. I mean, get mad at me. I don't
What
care.
if what if it starts to show that it is like a major threat that there's so many illegals here? Would you kind of change your mind on that priority? Because it's more of
Threat
like,
crime wise,
yeah,
or
like there's an organized, like I think we're seeing the first signs of there's a few organizations that are working with illegals to do some of the black market stuff, and then
Mhm.
riots and instigations in general.
Well, I support doing as many deportations as we can politically get away with.
Yeah.
I, I just think about that type of stuff. I think about the midterms, and I think a lot of people, I mean, Adrian, you've been saying, oh yeah, we're probably going to lose the midterms, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're probably right, and that's not good because if we do lose the midterms, it's just going to be like impeachments. We're going to have like 5 impeachments. We're going to have, it's just we're not going to be able to control legislative priorities or anything like that, and we're just going to have a crazy circus. So
I
I don't know.
think I think that immigration is probably the biggest issue that got Trump elected. Even more so than the economy. I mean, it's probably pretty close. But like I say all the time, I saw my city decline in front of my eyes, and
Yeah.
plenty of other people around the country, even in small towns when they're shipping in Haitians to Springfield, like a tiny, a small little city or town in Ohio or anywhere else. I think and you see those polls from immigrants who are like, yeah, I want a strong border. We need to enforce the law. I think it's
Hmm.
actually more popular than what people let on because this isn't another BLM. Like a lot of black people are not super down with, oh yeah, I'm going to protest for these because you
Yeah.
know there's tension in between the black and Hispanic communities. It's not some big BIPOC monolith you can just organize like how a lot of like white liberals think. Oh, minorities are all the same. They're all not white, so therefore they're going to advocate for everyone. It's like no, these are completely separate groups of people.
Mm.
So to be honest with you, it's a gambit. I'm personally willing to take it because in the long run, it will be the most beneficial for the health of the country. Now, politically, yeah, there's always the possibility this is going to backfire because it's so drastic or whatever. But if people start noticing that, like, oh well, there's, I mean, just a small thing like, oh, there's less traffic today. Oh, wow, there's less people applying for this apartment. Wait, there's more apartments available. Hey, wait, did housing start to go down and boomers aren't just able to rent out to government, they're rented out to legal immigrants? Like um I think I think the long-term gain is it could be worth it in also the short term as well because it all depends how it plays out and a lot of people vote with their wallet, but I mean, Gavin Newsom, is he helping his political career right now doing what he's doing? Does anybody other than getting more of the left behind him, like maybe that's all they need and they can just rig it again? But like nationwide, like he's an absolute shit show.
But he's acting like he wants to be governor more rather than aiming for presidency.
Or maybe he's gonna secede. I don't know.
Oh, there it is.
President. That's how he becomes
Dang.
President Newsom of.
I'm gonna be
Maybe-
stuck behind enemy
dude.
lines, guys.
Maybe
Yeah, you're
that's
gonna have
the
to come get
play.
me. Oh, yeah, Newsom. I've been saying he's gonna be the candidate. Like I'm almost positive about it,
But that
Go.
latest speech made him seem like he's only playing for the left, and he's not trying to get a majority, to follow him.
that's true. But I mean, like a week is an eternity in politics, and
That's
so
true,
I
yeah.
mean, in 2-3 years, 2.5 years or so, once that campaign starts ramping up, I
Well,
mean,
Did you guys hear Karen Bass's press conference?
no, actually, I didn't watch it.
It's definitely worth watching here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I called on this press conference because I don't think y'all understood exactly how retarded I am. So I brought all my other retarded Democrat friends up here so you could see what a bunch of retards, most of whom haven't had sex in the last 40 years, look like. Just look at our faces. These are the faces of women who haven't been touched in a long ass time, you guys. That's why we're here. We want everyone else to be miserable and retarded just like us. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, that was a different one actually. There was another.
Yeah, that's the doubling down on it.
Oh wow, that's good. Whoever posted that, props.
Bill Donald Trumpo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's been crushing. Oh man,
See,
California's
I mean,
doomed.
you gotta have faith in some of that. It's like the quiet Trump voter. Like the silent majority, as it were. Like because it's hard to come out and be like, yeah, deport them all in a social setting.
Yeah.
Or to put God forbid, a poster up on your lawn or whatever. But
I mean, I was just trying to present another side of the issue. I think I'm fine with it. I just don't want it to hurt us politically. That's the only thing I care about. I'm not like, I guess I'm a little bit toxically compassionate sometimes.
Another angle to look at it politically is is it the seats in the House or something rises due to the census? So even if you can't vote as an illegal, if you register in the census, then that jumps the Democratic lead by a pretty big percentage. So if you can get all those people out, the Republicans, I think they estimate, would have like a big lead because of that shift of the seats or whatever.
Do you guys remember during the campaign, Trump was saying, "Oh, and Mike Johnson, we have a secret weapon for the House." I mean, and I was always like, "What is he talking about? This secret weapon, this ace up the sleeve when it comes to the House?" And maybe that's it. Maybe they're gonna deport all these illegals out of these blue states, driving their numbers down, and then maybe reducing their amount of representatives.
Yeah, and then it'd be way easier to pass all the or like make the executive orders into actual law that's passed by Congress.
Yeah, because
Is it
we
a
go ahead.
is it a law that illegal immigrants are counted in the census, or is that a policy? Like, what's the actual
That's a good question.
reasoning why they are? I mean, it must be a law. I mean, we can ask Grok, but like that's that's something they couldn't they change that legislatively? I'm just like, put in voter ID and ending that
Yeah,
in
that
the
would be
big
big.
beautiful bill. Just throw it all in there.
Why isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I
Why
mean,
is
maybe it is, but
I mean, federal voter ID would probably be like, I mean, you wanna crush in the next election.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
there you go.
I asked Grok, are illegals counted in the census affecting the amount of seats? Yes, and it says yes. Undocumented immigrants are counted in the U.S. Census, and this affects the appointment of seats in the House of Representatives and Electoral College. Bing, bing. Good job, Silas. Interesting. Well, another side of it politically too is if Trump doesn't, if the Republican Party doesn't deliver on the promises of mass deportations, then that's a potential political downfall as well. Of well, you know, oh, he wasn't able to get it done or whatever, so that could potentially go against him with independence and or maybe not independence, but a little bit more like border hawk type voters.
No, you're seeing a lot of response to the talk of farm workers and hotel workers as like a betrayal of MAGA right now. So there's certainly an aspect where Trump needs to keep the base happy because he's not going to be the one running next time, also. So if it's Vance and it's like, well, Trump didn't follow through on this, why would we expect you to?
Will it be Vance? I'm still not convinced, but he is doing a really good job. And I don't know how he's doing, like, specifically in the job. I just mean that he's doing a good job not pissing off Trump. So, him and Elon got in that argument, and I'm sure there's been things that Vance disagrees with, but he doesn't go make a post about it. He's not throwing a fit about it. He knows where the power's at. He knows how to play this game. And just gauging the room here, who won, Trump or Elon? Who won that joust?
Oh, Trump for sure.
I'm surprised Trump didn't hit back harder. Everybody's always like, "Oh, he's a madman. He's wild. He's out of
Yeah.
control. He just hates it. He's just always trying to attack everybody." And that was the most measured I've seen.
Yeah. That's why he won it so like easily, or just by not the non-response made it seem like, oh, Elon, you're being silly again. He'll come back around.
Can we talk about the op potential that's being thrown around in because I know we've talked about the immigration stuff, but more in terms of these riots. There's a lot of different theories going around. I mean, a very obvious one is they're just trying to cause chaos so that they can spark a national outcry against Trump. Like the similar color revolution playbook. I also have heard from, I wouldn't say maybe blue anon, but more kind of truther lines of thinking. The idea that Trump is actually, this is an op from the Trump administration or somebody connected to steer public opinion against, cause chaos, steer public opinion against it, and then also uh, justify the Palantir surveillance, which Laura Loomer, had that
Is
tweet about it, which was like, okay, this is, I'm not into that. I don't want a surveillance state
yeah.
generally. And I've heard that somebody brought that up to me when I was talking about it, and they thought it was all the riots were a distraction from the Palantir stuff. To me, that's so it's assuming that Palantir, Peter Thiel, is now George Soros, but like trying to create this artificial outrage. That seems that seems unlikely. Now Palantir could, ride the coattails of this and justify their product, but yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be being rooted in Soros and shit. And maybe he's connected to Palantir somehow. I don't know, but clearly this feels like the left doing their playbook with a new demographic.
Maybe they're just trying, they're just testing it out, testing the waters, because I think that's really, I work, I work in marketing a little bit, and one of my biggest, one of my main philosophies and my main mottos when it comes to marketing is test and pivot. So you just test things. That's why I was saying, I made a point about Trump's post about, dialing back immigration or mass deportations or whatever. And it might be just testing the waters. Maybe it is hard to think that the left really is doing these riots because it's so politically damaging to them. So it would make sense if I was a leftist conspiracy theorist. I'd be like, "Oh, Trump," and they are saying this. Like, Trump is actually responsible for these riots because it's making the illegal immigrants look horrible, and people generally don't like riots. They don't like chaos and anarchy or whatever. They don't like violence in the street. They don't like burning cars. Like, generally, people don't like that stuff. And so either they are organic. Let's see, what are the options? The riots are organic, or it's some sort of distraction for some sort of Trojan horse for Palantir, or it's the libs thinking that they can get away with anything politically because they've been stealing elections for so long. So I think that I think the Dems are very overly confident in their election winning ability, and I'm hoping that they kind of have lost their magic when it comes to that. I think that people like Elon and the tech right have come in and helped close that gap of them stealing elections through, I don't know, voter machines or just, you know, mail-in ballots and mass mail-in ballots and stuff like that. It seems like they were able to, get a hold of that this time around because we had 81 million votes last election, and this time it kind of went back down to like the normal amount. So I mean, I don't know, but it seems like a weird move for the Dems to go out and just burn a bunch of stuff right now. Maybe they're banking on, look, see, every single time Trump is in power, chaos breaks out, thinking that maybe the normal person won't see through that. I don't know. It's just, it is a little strange. I did not expect to see burning cars, to be honest. I expected to see
Well,
just CNN propaganda with the little grandmas being ripped away from their grandkids. That's what I expected, and I was wrong.
I think going back to your point about marketing, I think they've been doing some sampling, some testing. They tried the Elon stuff. I mean, sure, they got some people to firebomb Teslas, but it just wasn't having that mass effect. And so it's obvious. Like, to your knowledge, was any particular event that started people rioting? Was just ICE going to Home Depots, or like what was the thing that was like? Because with the Summer of Love Part 1 in 2020, it was George Floyd. It was obvious. You had a face, you had a video, you had an incident, you had the right conditions. Some definitely there was some programming up to that with Ahmaud Arbery and some other high profile cases. And then it was the perfect powder keg. Whereas this, it's kind of like, yeah, there's been raids, there's been some protests, but all of a sudden now we're gonna have this mass like civil unrest. It doesn't feel organic at all because it's not like I mean, people have been kind of apathetic and they didn't have their Jorge Floyd to piggyback on.
Mm-hmm.
There's no person that they're like, and I do think maybe right now, I mean, this is since we're talking about demons and all, they could be looking for that sacrifice. Like we want to initiate somebody getting killed by police, so then we're trying to bait Trump into this reaction, and then have do a Kent State kind of situation where some people get shot and killed.
Yeah.
And that is the powder keg that Trump is playing with. But I'm sure they know that. Like they're not. You're trying to look at it like they're baiting us into doing this. The Democrats are, basically encouraging it. I actually have a video. Shoot, I don't know if you guys saw this going around a couple of days ago, but this was how the local press was reporting the rioting going on.
Large group of people, it could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
Yeah, just having some fun watching cars burn. We don't want it to get too volatile.
Demonstrating is what he called it.
It's a normal day in Los
Have some
Angeles.
fun. And here's another one I pulled up just today.
It's not chaotic. It's not. Nobody's. Other than what you see behind me, it's actually relatively mellow, even though it might not seem that way. It's like a sort of. Another thing that happens at protests like this is that they sort of settle into almost like a celebratory atmosphere, as much as like a confrontational one.
He's saying that with a gas mask like around us.
It's relatively mellow, There's just the wreckage behind me and some.
That's a loose usage of the word relatively.
It's confrontational, but celebratory. Ooh, that's a good title, Celebratory Confrontation. That sounds like a song title. Or... I punch you in the face.
They're just practicing their freedom of speech, guys. Don't worry about it.
Get a goat and go. Trump made them burn our flag and raise foreign flags, then refused to be deported. Not a good look. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look good. So it seems like there's some sort of reverse Soros type situation going on. I mean, I don't know. But I didn't read the thread, but I know there was a big thread from Data Republican, who crushes it, by the way. Everybody go follow her. Talking about how she was uncovering some of the funding or tracking some of the money and the funding for the riots. Did you guys read that, or did you hear anything about that? No. Okay. And then Anna Paulina Luna was saying she was using some of that data from Data Republican to look into it. So, and I think Trump announced as well that they're going to get down to the bottom of it. I think he announced that he was going to use the IRS to figure out where the money is coming from. I don't know. Maybe they're just making noises.
They're using Palantir to figure it out.
Yes. I mean, I get Palantir seems creepy and stuff, but I feel like we already have a surveillance state, don't we? I mean,
yeah, but
did I get a dub?
Oh yeah, but the problem is the data isn't intersecting the way they want it to, and they want to introduce AI to oversee the data, and so Palantir's first task is to integrate the data from the IRS and Homeland Security and all of the departments into one database and like terminal or portal that AI can then start to do rapid work with.
I think it's definitely terrifying as an idea to have a national database like that. And I'm not trying to downplay it necessarily, but it is almost another libertarian like climate change in that way. And it's real. Don't get me wrong. Technocracy is happening. It's something to be very concerned about, and we shouldn't keep our eye, and we shouldn't just go willy nilly with it.
I want to
Still,
control it. That's what I want. I
well,
want to control it. If there's gonna be a technocracy, I mean, it seems like it's going to happen regardless, no matter what. Even if so, it's up to us. We can own it and we can use it, or we can just let the enemy have it. That's my feeling about it.
well, and I was having a heated discussion with somebody about this earlier, and their only concern, and they're more on the left, but their only concern was over Palantir, and I'm like, well, so 40 million illegal immigrants is just a distraction, because to me, sure, the potential and the misuse of a system like that is definitely troubling, but that's again similar to the debt, similar to climate change. This is all like we haven't seen it play out, whereas you can see the crisis in front of your eyes in the physical world. So I think both are concerning, but to just say, "Oh, illegal immigration is a distraction," then that's clearly not. That's not true. It's the most press. It's literally the thing I care almost the most about, other than like World War III, is that we not pretty much give up the idea of having a country at all, because what's going to happen then?
Well, the damn libertarians, I really think that they are open borders by ideology, and I think they hide it. I think they hide the ball, So people like Massey, people like Rand Paul, I think that they are way more laissez-faire about like borders are kind of like just suggestions, and it's kind of goes against their ideology. I mean, well, what's annoying about that though is that they're always on our side obstructing. But I just asked real quick about Palantir contracts, and when I looked at them, they seemed relatively small numbers. So Homeland Security, they have a $30 million ICE migrant tracking. $30 million. I mean, it's not 30 billion or anything. Health, they have a 44 million FDA drug review from 2020. They have another contract, 99 million diplomatic health monitoring. Social Security, other Social Security IRS discussions. But I guess they do have a $1 billion Navy contract, and then a 795 million Army Maven smart system. So, I mean, it's not that large of amounts of money. I thought it was going to be like, oh, they just got like $100 billion contract to build a database on every human being. But, you know, we give our data away. We're on live streaming on X and Rumble and YouTube, and we all have Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. They're mining our data at all times, and I'm generally anti-government, but I'm also anti-corporations having our data too. And I've made this point a lot, and I'm sure that the X algorithm doesn't really like me saying this, but I think Elon bought X mostly for the data. I think he bought Twitter mostly for the data. He framed it as he's saving freedom of speech, and that's like kind of a bipartisan moral cause that everybody can get behind. It's almost like a little bait and switch. It's good marketing too. I'm saving the world, or I'm saving free speech. But we kind of have been giving him our data, and you notice he never says anything about privacy as a right. I think I'm hoping to see that as a political issue coming up in the future about privacy. Rand Paul used to run on that a lot. Railing against the Patriot Act and stuff. It kind of is creepy how much we kind of don't care about data nowadays, and we kind of give our data away. If there's a free product, if there's a free service, then you're the product basically. So I mean, it is creepy, but I feel like we're giving it away ourselves anyway. But it's definitely something to keep in mind. I don't know.
We had a post comment here from Goat.
Mhm.
Oops, that was the wrong one, but that's still Fair. Elon bought Twitter to train his AI to save the world. Whoever wins the AI race wins.
Mm.
Yep, I totally agree with you and what you were saying, Tyler. This is the one that I was talking about. Illegal immigration is nothing more than people bombs to bring down nations from within by overwhelming the systems.
Nice.
Um,
The
I
goat.
think that's yeah, it's a form of warfare, really. And the people are caught in the crossfire because these are people who just want the opportunity to be in the U.S. for one reason or another to better their life, or God knows what they're doing all the time. But they're caught in the crossfire because there are forces at play that try to use them to create destabilized nations,
Mm.
and I think that's very accurate.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see a closed border. I'm glad to see such a consensus on such an important issue. I think there's probably like a 70-30. This is like a 70-30 issue. I think 70% of the population wants to reduce. I think probably more than 70% of the population wants to reduce illegal immigration. And then a 70% wants to reduce even legal immigration, which I say let's just close down all immigration for 5 years, like you said, Adrian.
I
And
think,
deport them all.
yeah.
Okay, fine. Get them all out.
Hmm.
I'm fine with it. All right, we're hitting an hour right now. How are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Yeah. You want to keep cruising for a little bit?
Yeah.
What else is important? Well, the RFK Jr. fires all 17 members of the ACIP, which I thought was, that's something that's going on that not a lot of people are talking about because, other issues are taking the news cycle. But that's a significant move towards reforming the CDC and the vaccine schedule.
Hmm.
That's something that I'm a little bit more passionate about than, to me, I actually care more about that issue, not necessarily more than immigration, but I do care about that issue a little bit more than a lot of people do because I've seen it firsthand. They're experimenting on us. And also they're not forcing these illegal immigrants to get vaccines. But I think there used to be back in the 80s there was 3 vaccines that would happen within the first year of a child's life, and now it's up to about 26. So 26 vaccinations, and I believe some of them are multiple shots. And this is just insane. Like this is they're experimenting on us, and we have no recourse, right? So I'm just so happy to see actual change happening. RFK Jr. crushing it. Please keep going. And what I wonder if how there's got to be some sort of connection between the technocracy and big pharma. So I don't know. That's something that I just was looking at today. So keep it up, RFK.
Um, well, not to change the topic from what you're saying, because
Oh, go ahead.
we have breaking news, and Goat shared this: Israel bombed Iran.
No way.
Yep,
No way. Really?
not good if you
No.
ask me.
Well,
Not good.
no, it's definitely not good.
Not good.
Uh well, let's wait to get the facts. Let me ask Grok and see if there's any facts, or where can we get the facts?
Yep. Iran bombed themselves and blamed it on Israel. That's what Israel will say. And I guess the RFK files, a big chunk of them were released, over 1,000.
Oh yeah. So yes, Israel conducted airstrikes on Iran early Friday, June 13th, 2025, targeting nuclear and military sites in and around Tehran. Explosions were reported across the Iranian capital, with Iranian state media broadcasting images of smoke and fire. Israel described the attacks as a preemptive strike to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear bomb. There was no U.S. military involvement, though some reports suggest possible U.S. intelligence and logistical support. Iran has avowed to retaliate, and tensions are escalating in the region. My question is it possible for us to stay out of it?
Yeah. There's always the choice of staying out of it.
I think that there's probably only one person that is more powerful than Israel, and that's Trump. I think he's the only one. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of people who think that he just kind of bends over too far for them. So, I mean,
Well, we will see, won't we?
if I'm definitely going to be pissed off because I'm less anti-Israel than a lot of people are. I kind of am a little bit more neutral on this subject. But a lot of people think that they control Trump, but I really don't think that they do control Trump. It seemed to me that Trump was trying to go his own direction. But I said today I'm going to be pissed off if they fuck with Trump's foreign policy, which obviously this is probably gonna do that.
Well, now they can shift the protest yet again to Iran, which I think might have a little more bipartisan support than any other issues. Like, I mean, Gaza kind of did. It was more the protests definitely more on the left. But I swear I really hope that I mean, so they're bombing the nuclear sites in Tehran. What's the escalation from Iran going to be towards Israel? They're going to send some bombs over and test that Golden Dome out.
Yeah, and then that's going to
Iron
cost
Dome.
us a ton of money because we pretty much fund that, right?
Yeah, I mean, how much money we give Israel every year? Like $10 billion or more than that.
And
So
I heard Iran has missiles that can easily get past their Iron Dome, and that's part of why Israel's so scared of them. That's not just
so you bomb them? No.
preemptively.
I love that phrase. Like, we're bombing them preemptively. It's a preemptive strike.
We're
It's
in
a
the
strike.
right.
No, the strike happened. The preemptive for the thing that didn't happen, but we're doing it preemptively. I fucking hate this shit.
Let's see. How much money does the U.S. government give Israel every year? Oh, great. Grok doesn't want to answer it. No, 3.8 billion in military aid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been kind of a normal normal bipartisan position that we will fund people to fight for their own freedom, but we won't fight their wars for them, kind of. So, I mean, funding people to defend themselves, I mean, that's kind of the argument for Ukraine as well. I'm not saying that I support that. I'm just saying that's kind of what the bipartisan policy position is in DC. So funding them to defend themselves, I mean, funding Iron Dome is a little bit different than, say, getting in a full-scale war with Iran and sending our own troops over there. I think there's probably not a lot of, support for that from the American people.
I mean, Israel is kind of. I mean, I don't know what their play is. They basically assume that the U.S. They're pretty much like, oh, I got the biggest badass like friend you could ever have, and they'll come rescue us. And it's basically like you're potentially going to force the United States into a war just so you don't get annihilated. Because I think if Iran wanted to, if the United States wasn't involved with how Israel behaves in that region, they would be destroyed.
Yeah.
If so, it's kind of a predicament where it's like, well, do we let Israel get destroyed? But at the same time, they're doing shit that is wanting people to destroy them, not just because they're Jewish. I mean, obviously, there's ethnic conflict that goes on there, but it's also just the fact that like you're doing all. I mean, to be honest, I think the U.S. involvement in the Middle East is mostly due to Israel.
You think so? What about Islam, though? I think Islam is dangerous.
I mean, I don't discount that. I do think that Islam. I
Islam
think
is
Islam is used.
expansionist. I
I
think.
think I
Yeah,
think Islam is used by certain aspects of Zionist power. To be honest with you,
mm,
if you look at what was her name, Barbara Marx. I can't think of her last name, but she was saying we're basically gonna turn Europe multicultural. We're gonna facilitate this um, because it's what we believe in. And so a lot of the migrant refugees, Islamic tension that's gone on in Europe. I mean, if you think about it, like there's a lot of actual genuine refugees from Syria and all these different conflicts that wouldn't have the impetus to go Europe as much. Now, I'm not discounting the reality that Islam has that aspect, and yeah, now they're pretty obviously trying to conquer parts of the West in that way. But I do think that Israel is overall a very net negative for the United States as a partner.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of like what do we get from them? Is there a way that we can use them to fight our enemies? Or are they just using us to fight their enemies?
I mean, who are the United States enemies would be your question.
I
China?
think um yeah, I mean, I think the big 3 would be China, Russia, and Iran is kind of the typical, but I think Islam though. Islam is more dangerous, I think, than maybe we just disagree on how dangerous Islam is. I think it's very expansionist. It doesn't seem to me that Israel is very expansionist. Maybe they're I mean,
Well,
everybody's
the
always
Greater
saying,
Israel Project, you know.
yeah, well, I guess it's tough to say because it's always like shadowy Mossad, kind of conspiracy theories, but it's really difficult to really pin down, at least for me. It seems very conspiracy theory-ish to me about how it's like, I mean, a lot of the anti-Israel people think that every single politician has been blackmailed by Mossad. And I'm like, this is just too far for me. I can't wrap my head around that. Maybe I'm naive, but I also just
well,
I feel an intuition that there's something like Silas, you mentioned that there's something wrong with Israel, but I see that, but I also see there's something wrong with the anti-Israel crowd though too.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's part of their religion to annihilate the like the enemy of their religion, basically, and they view the state of Israel as their ultimate enemy right now. So I wouldn't put it past them to try and do some nuking, and that's probably they got intelligence that they were moving forward on it fast and they needed to act, but that doesn't change, just all the shady stuff that how Israel's connected to the United States. And it's like it seems like every congressman except Massey has money coming into them from Israel in some way.
Through APAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's not necessarily that every single member of Congress is like on the Epstein list or being blackmailed by Mossad. I do think there's probably a fair amount of people who are being blackmailed by Israeli intelligence and other intelligence agencies. But I think it's kind of similar to how for so long it was just foreboding to even mention, and I keep bringing up vaccines, but like how ubiquitous and unanimous every public figure, politician, doctor was on vaccines until that Overton window got shifted and it was like, actually, there's a lot of issues here. It's the same kind of thing where it's like a self-censoring like third rail that some people, because they know the relationship. When you go into Congress, if you're smart enough, you know the relationship between Israel and the United States. And you're going to get if you go against Israel, you'll get the ADL on your ass and they'll call you anti-Semitic and they'll say all these different things to get you to fall in line. And the fact that the APAC is like the only foreign lobby that doesn't have to register as a foreign lobbyist. there's definitely some things there that um, you can trace back some of the lineage of that to
Mm.
the Rothschilds and different factions of the elite that have a vested interest in the creation of Israel. So I think it's just one of those things. It's kind of like it's like the post World War II order that you've seen some people like Tucker and other prominent people start to question like um, what's happened since World War II and who's been running it since then, and has it been to the benefit of the West, and like does it feel like we won the last great war, because why are all our countries completely in shambles? It doesn't feel like we're actually the victors.
Mm.
It seems like we're still being um, victimized by somebody else. I'm not just saying it's one particular group of people, but when it comes to Israel, it's very um, it's a strong influence for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it is hard for me to deny some of the coincidences, especially like when I look at like the president of Mexico. Well, like, wait, what are the odds that the president of Mexico is Jewish? There is stuff like that I'm like, what's going on?
It's a little weird.
But at the same time, I mean, you start going down this rabbit hole, and then it leads into Holocaust denial. Hitler was actually the good guy. The Jews have been, it's actually the synagogue of Satan. All this like crazy. It gets a little too wild for me personally, because um, it's always kind of like unprovable conspiracy type stuff, and I'm a very skeptical type person. So, why every single time it goes into like Holocaust denial, I don't I don't get that. And for me, that's just a bridge too far. So I I've studied it myself. I've looked into it myself, and I'm not I'm it's just beyond the pale. And I really do think that, especially that topic, it is a seductive the questioning, it's like the taboo, and questioning the unquestionable is a seductive type of quest for secret knowledge and stuff like that. And sometimes history just is what it is. And so and the people that are very anti-Israel, they don't do themselves any favors by going so far beyond the pale. It pushes people like me. I'm like, oh, okay, this is just too far. So I don't know. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm still on the fence about it, but I'm gonna be pissed off if they fuck with Trump's foreign policy. But I don't think that everyone on X is like freaking out like we're already in a war. And I'm like, it's okay. Like we're not in a war yet. So I mean, am I being unreasonable?
You said the right word yet. So yeah, until it actually happens, we shouldn't worry too much. But I just got a feeling that there's going to be some sort of collaboration with the United States and Israel to make sure Iran doesn't go too crazy after
Well,
that.
if this is a full-scale conflict and not just we're going to bomb your nuclear facilities, then the United States is going to be involved. We can't. We're literally attached at the hip. Like whether it's from them, it's just that is the relationship. So the default position will be that. Now, Trump has signaled. I saw a statement from Mark Rubio that's basically saying we're not involved in these operations, and we're evacuating personnel. Basically telling Iran we're not involved in this. But I think Netanyahu and the Likud party are very hawkish on all this shit. So I think they know that if they get in trouble, that they can just ask for a bailout from us, because it's basically like, if we don't, we die. And you're holding the United States hostage as well to the behest of what they want. So regardless of the who's controlling who and where all this comes from, if you just look at it from that strategic standpoint, Israel has the United States by the balls, because it's basically like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do that? Like, and what? So you're just going to let us get destroyed, and you'll be known as this, and blah blah blah. Personally, I don't understand why the Republicans are so hard on the anti-Semitism stuff when it comes to their actual base. Like the Jewish population in the United States votes overwhelmingly for the Democrats. I always found it weird to like, well, we're going to go so hard on anti-Semitism. Like, what does this have to do? Like, this isn't your base, right? This isn't the people that got you elected for the most part. So I don't really understand that, other than the Israeli Zionist like influence has penetrated deeply, but into both parties, to be honest, obviously. But
Well, okay, so I just grokked it. Like, how many times has Israel bombed nuclear facilities in Iran? And it's got 4 different times. So three examples before today. So bombing a nuclear facility doesn't necessarily mean it's full scale war. I mean, everybody's acting like we're already in a war. So it's really important when you're passionate about a topic or an issue, that you steel man the opponent's argument. So I'm just going to ask you, Adrian, to steel man the other side. What is the best argument you can come up with for the U.S. to support?
to support Israel,
Yeah.
Well, just in terms of foreign policy, it would be a massive disruption to upend that relationship, and also all of our connections and our bases. And I don't think anyone can fully comprehend the scale of the U.S. military presence in the Middle East. Like, we know about it. Oh yeah, there's like 450 bases over there, but you don't really fully understand what that means in terms of moving personnel, or like, we're heavily invested in this region. We have
Yeah.
permanent military bases there.
Yeah.
So I kind of just see it to some extent from the sunk cost point of view, in terms of like, we're leveraged in that region to just abandon everything. Then then the United States looks weak, right? And we're going to be, we're basically abandoning an ally. And how can we be trusted? Blah blah blah. I think that's, I think just the disruption of it in and of itself, because of what our policy has been for the last 30 years, is the reason why I think most people in power will side with Israel, because it's the status quo.
Yeah.
It's our I mean, RFK kind of had that quote during the campaign, like, Israel's an aircraft carrier in the Middle East for the United States. And if you want to view Israel as a tool, some people disagree and say that Israel's just a tool of the United States military industrial complex. I don't think it's complicated. It's not all like, yeah, they have vested interests in selling weapons, clearly, but I think the short answer to your question is maintaining the status quo of what we're already doing. Strategically, what's the benefit of supporting Israel? Fuck, dude, I really don't. I mean, what have we gotten as a United States citizen? What have we achieved by being involved in the Middle East?
Well, I noticed that a lot of people that are a little bit more on the anti-Israel side or anti-interventionist side, they just want just isolationism. And to me, that's just not possible at this point. We're basically a global empire. So to just up and leave and just bring all of our troops back, and we're just going to put up walls, and we're just going to not get involved in any wars, I think that's really bad idea for grand strategy as well. So to allow other hostile powers that don't necessarily have the same values of liberty as us to rise in power. I mean, that's kind of, I'm a little bit more of a empirical type person, or like, I think if somebody's going to be in control of the world, I think it should be us. That's what I think. I do wish that Christians would be a little bit more critical of Israel and also Judaism. Judaism is very fundamentally at odds with Christianity, unfortunately. So I'm actually, religiously, I'm 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 very skeptical, maybe not skeptical, but I got my eye on him for sure. Religiously, as far as like foreign policy goes and stuff like that, I mean, it is complicated. It does seem like everybody that's anti-Israel just thinks that everybody's blackmailed or everybody's on the Epstein list and stuff like that, and then actually Hitler was the good guy and the Jews did 9/11, and it just spirals into this crazy obsession, and I can't go that far. I just can't do it. I mean, I like to think of myself as being open-minded, but that it's just too far for me. I just can't do it. It's beyond the pale.
Well,
And why does it do that every single time? Like somebody like Dave Smith, I can get behind some of his arguments, but I mean, when it comes to like Nick Fuentes or Stu Peters or like some of these other guys, it's like, they wake up and think about Israel. They think about Israel all day. They talk about Israel all day. They go to sleep. They blame everything on
Hmm.
Israel. It's like, what is going on? It seems like a TDS type thing. I mean,
Yeah.
there is something going on with that.
I guess Tim Pool calls them Israel first because
Oh, yeah.
that's always the first thing they think of or go to as like an explanation for any event in the world or any person in power.
now, I'm not denying that there isn't a strong number of influencers and people on X who literally just post about Jews and Israel all day, and it does get like, okay, there is yes, we know the Jews, yeah, we get that, um, and that is I am annoyed by like how yeah, Stu Peters is he's just Stu Peters, but um, when it comes to you're talking about the isolationist versus imperialism. Now, personally, for me, I don't see abandoning Israel or the Middle East being at odds with that
Mm,
because here's the thing: if the United States and Russia made a strategic partnership
mm,
for energy,
mm,
and the United States was drilling for energy, and we could also do trade with Russia,
mm.
why do we need the Middle East for oil? Because here's the thing: it's for oil, right? What is the strategic reason why the United States is in the Middle East?
Islam,
Yeah. See, and
radical Islam. I mean, that's the answer. Whether we agree with it or whether we agree about how dangerous Islam is, that I think that is kind of the official reason, I'd say.
but I mean, they've funded radical Islam groups.
Who
ISIS,
who does?
the United States,
Oh, really? And that's provable.
in Syria. Yeah. Well, the White Helmets, the Syrian opposition,
Hmm.
were ISIS.
Okay.
And the guy that was in the White Helmets documentary wasn't allowed into the U.S. to accept his Oscar because of his threat level on the Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I mean, basically, the United States, the CIA, whoever you want to say it, they go into countries, they overthrow governments. There is that level of like, I'm not opposed to imperialism or I mean empire. I don't think it's necessarily good, but I can hear your arguments on yeah. I'd rather have an American empire than a Chinese empire or anybody else.
Hmm.
But those overthrowing governments, bombing citizens in Arab countries, to me, has also had the effect of creating more radicalized Islam.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That blowback element.
I agree. Yeah, you create another enemy, unless it's kind of there's a rule in the 48 laws of power. There's a law that says crush your enemy totally and completely, and if you don't, then you basically just create another enemy that's going to live to fight another day. They're going to be more passionate about the cause. So I mean, I agree with that. I think that we probably have had something to do with creating those enemies. Dinesh D'Souza has a point in one of his books. He talks about how liberalism was actually responsible for 9/11, which is kind of like a controversial take. But the Islam hates the U.S. because we're so gay, basically. Because we're just so debauched. We're just so far removed from like traditional values and stuff like that. And maybe some of that is propaganda, but I do think that they hate the US as well because of I think they do view us as fundamentally against their religion, which their religion is expansionist. They do I do believe that they believe that they will rule the world one day and they'll do anything to get it. And we've seen in the past, if you go back farther than say like World War II, you see Islamic empires that are extremely brutal and expansionist. And that's part of why the Crusades happened, is because it was a response to radical, expansionist, and violent, brutal Islamic regimes. So I think it is important to not let history start right at World War II, and go back even further. And I maybe that's the fundamental disagreement that we have, maybe is and I talk about this all the time about like agreeing about what the threats are and who the enemies are and stuff like that. So maybe, is it fair to say, Adrian, that you don't see Islam as much of a threat as I do? That's kind of where I'm at so far.
I mean, I do. I definitely do see Islam as a threat. I think it's destructive to Western Christian nations, because it is at odds with our societies and our values in many ways. Ironically, against a lot of liberal values that liberals seem to want to ignore when they're aligning themselves with Islam.
Mm.
But I do think that at the same time, it's so if we want to. Here's the thing: if we want to fight against Islam or neutralize that threat to our society, my thought process is literally the reverse of what's been going on. Because right now, what we have is a very strong militaristic, so many conflicts and wars involved with Islamic countries, while at the same time having an open border.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you flip that and you put the amount of energy into maintaining those societies, Britain's toast by the time I'm older. Like I will visit Britain
by the time this episode is over, they're pretty much toast.
And it's Islamic.
Yeah, I mean, when you see what happened to England,
it's horrible.
Yeah, and then it's happening to Ireland too, and
they're
other
being
countries
erased
as well. Yeah,
as a people.
Yeah,
So that is absolutely crucial to me, because, and here's the thing: when we American troops and other Western nations go and fight, we're the bulk of the people that are dying in this conflict. That I think is, you're not wrong to have concerns about Islam and want to make sure that it doesn't take over the world. Like, I'm in full agreement on that. I think it's just the tactic of inflaming that element while also doing nothing to prevent it from infiltrating your society is just leading to this crazy powder keg.
But we have a sealed border, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we do.
At least for now.
In fairness, we don't deal with Islamic migration like Europe does, because we have an ocean.
Yeah.
We still have it, but it's not on that level, thankfully, because of that. But and it's great that we have a sealed border, but man, Europe does not.
Yeah.
And they're terrified of advocating for themselves.
Suicidal empathy. Well, also the Muslims breed like crazy, and so they're outbreeding the whites, they're outbreeding the Christians, and they're just very expansionist in physically and religiously as well. Christians are like, hey guys, do you have time? Okay, never mind. That Muslims aren't like that. So I mean, we'll probably just have to table it and continue the conversation. I mean, like I said, I'm open-minded, but I do have to push back on some of that Stu Peters, Fuentes type stuff, and I hope that's fair.
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, that the Jewish people were offered a different area of Africa to create Israel, not right against all the people that hate them. Now, obviously, you got the thing was the holy sites, right? That's
Yeah.
why it's involved. Like, no, this has to be it, right?
Mhm.
But they didn't have to go right into the in the pit of hell to have a homeland.
Mhm.
There's plenty of Africa that wasn't, and I'm sure there might have been some colonialization that goes on there too, but at the very least, strategically,
I mean, they would have
didn't
been
have to
mad
do
at
this.
them too. I mean, no
But
matter
not.
where they put that fucking state, I mean, I think it just is what it is, you know? It's just the way that it was supposed to unfold for whatever reason. Like everything is as it should be pretty much. For better or worse. Maybe there's a worse outcome. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if we're in the worst possible world, but I mean, I'll keep my eye on them for sure. You guys have been voicing concerns, and so I have concerns. I definitely don't want to go to war. I definitely don't want our people. I mean, I'm gonna get pretty. If we get involved in another war, I'm gonna get pretty. I'm gonna get pretty. How do I say? Vocal about it. Or I'll get swung to one side. I'll be less neutral about it. Let's say that. But like I said, I don't think we're in a war yet. So I don't think I don't think we need to freak out quite yet. And then maybe that's one of the answers of why we're such close allies is because we're pretty much Israel and the United States do have a common enemy. And I guess a lot of this does come down to whether or not that enemy is actually as dangerous as it is, or whether or not we created that enemy, like you said. But like I said, there's a longer history there when it comes to Islam. So I'd love to hear what other people have to say. If anybody else wants to come on and talk about that, all you people out there, we had some people tuning in today, which is fun. I know Silas, you got to wrap up, and yeah.
Do we want to do our cuck of the week before we
Oh, the cuck
close
off.
out?
Yeah, let's lighten up the mood a tad.
Welcome to the cuck off.
Oh yeah.
The cuck of the week.
Who's going first?
You go first this time.
Okay.
Lighten up the mood. Show me something. Show me something, Sai.
All right. It's timely.
Revolutionary, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Well,
No.
this one isn't as funny as that, but it's also a protest related clip here.
Nice.
Been going viral.
I have a kid. If I know these people are having their children taken and their parents. What about my kids? I need their job. Look at this. Then what happens to my kid? I can't help you. But you can if you could just move out the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do you as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
Oh no,
Wow.
work.
Oh no.
Oh no, work.
I
The
saw-
thing that feeds me.
I saw a
Oh,
post
no.
that said, "Why are we pretending like that black lady is pissed off because she can't go to work?"
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm voting since I don't have a cuck of the week today, so I'm voting. I gotta go with Psy Guy.
Yeah.
Silas, that was so funny. Did he get hit right in the nuts?
It looks like it.
That'll teach you a lesson.
Oh boy.
Well, ladies and gents, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Get a goat and go. Let me know if you want to be a guest. Anybody else out there who wants to come on and defend Israel, or anybody who wants to convince me to be anti-Israel, please send me an email at thepostrepublic@gmail.com. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Adrian and Silas. You guys are my buddies.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.